right? So in order to resolve this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say close this, get back to here and collapse this. In this, I'm going to create inside the app folder, I'm going to create a new folder called artists, artist. That's the route name which we are trying to create, artist. And inside this artist, I'm going to create a new file called page.tsx. And now inside here, inside the page.tsx, I'm going to create sfc and I'm going to name this as the artist. Artist. And inside this, I'm just going to create a div for the time being, and I'm just going to load this as an artist page. Save these changes. And now if you click this, you should be able to see this artist page over here, right? And let's make sure this function is going to be an asynchronous function, because this page needs to wait until it's fetching the songs, the artist details and everything. And one more thing, we should not cache this file. So export const revalidate equals to 0. So by adding this revalidate as a 0, this page will never get cached in your local storage. So say this. All right. Now what I need to do is I need to create a new folder in our root directory called action. A new folder called actions. Inside this actions folder, I'm going to create a new file called getartists.ts. Now over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fetch the artist information from where? From the Supabase. So I'm going to create a function called const get artist equals to, it's a callback function, and this function should be an asynchronous function, and this function should return a type as a promise, and it should use the type as the artist types, which we created ourselves a custom artist type over where it is here. If you haven't copied this file, so you can go to our public gist file for from the GitHub, and you can copy the types from here. I already dropped the link in the description below, so please go ahead and copy and paste it. Right. So for this artist, and it's going to return the array of artists, right? And inside here, now what I need to do is I need to so don't worry about this error will be rectified later, so don't worry about this. So first what I need to do, I need to get const supabase equals to, so create server component client. You need to make sure that it's imported from auth helpers react next.js, create server component client. So using that, I'm going to create an object inside here, and I'm going to make sure that cookies, it's going to be the cookies which is coming from our next headers, right? So then what I need to do is const data. I'm going to fetch the data, and I'm going to keep this along with that. I need to fetch the error also, because we are trying to fetch the detail from the Supabase. So using the Supabase object from which artist table, I'm going to select all the record, so star, then I'm going to order it by order by using the field as created at, and I'm going to make sure bring the newly added to the top, so ascending, it's going to be the false, right? Save it. And if there is an error, so I'm just going to say console.log, get that error, okay, and I'm going to return the data. If there is no data, I'm going to return as an empty array. So to avoid, so make sure that is as an any type, so save this, okay. And of course I need to export the default. By default, I need to export this as a get artist, right? So now we have completed it. Now let's get back to the page.tsx of your artist. And since we already made this as an asynchronous function, now all I have to do is I need to fetch the artist. Const artist equals to await get artist. Okay, so now this function will get that information, and I need to display that information over here. If we do have the artist information, so artist dot map, open it. I need to get that artist, one by one artist in it, and I'm going to create a paragraph tag, and I'm going to display that artist dot author name. Yeah, save it. Now if we do have the artist information, we should get that name over here. And look at that, now we are getting the name. So let's check this out. If I click new artist, so I'm gonna create a new artist, and I'm going to choose the file. And I'm going to fill all the respective URLs over here, and if I click create, it's created and it's refreshed, and look at that, now we are getting the new name at the top, which means we are getting the details. Now, but this is not the proper way to render it. Now we successfully fetch the details. Now all I have to do is to bring our header sections. So if you have a look at our let me bring it, let me bring a new window, and let me keep this new window over here. So let me bring that Spotify clone. Spotify, yes, this is the one which we deployed. Okay, so here we go, and you can see we're having this nice header. So let me log in with my GitHub. Oops. Okay, so sign in. Okay, so now we authenticated ourselves. Now if I get back to the artist page, and you can see we having this go back option. If I click this, it's taking us to back, and if I click this, I'm coming forward, and it's displaying all the records over here, the artist information. This is what we need to do now. So first what I need to do, I need to create that nice header component, right? I need to create that nice header component. So let's go ahead and do that now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to create an empty division. So now all we have to do is to go ahead and start writing the code for that header component, and that's what we are going to do next. All right then, so inside this division, now what we are going to do is I'm just going to say class name, and rounded LG. Of course, it's going to be rounded LG, and height is going to be full, and width, of course, it's going to be full, and overflow, it's going to be hidden, and overflow white, it's going to be auto, right? Enter. So let's me bring this so you can see it in the screen. Now what I need to do, I need to bring the header, and right after here I need to display the page contents over here. So let's go ahead and create the header component, which we haven't created. So let's go ahead and create this header. So if I save this, of course I'm going to run into an error, right? So now all I have to do is to go ahead and start creating the header components. So let's create a new component inside the components folder. So here right click and create a new file, and name that file as the header.tsx, and save this file. Now what I have to do is I need to make sure this file as a client file. So use client and sfc, it's a client component, so make sure. Then I'm going to keep this as a header, and inside this I'm just going to create a div, and I'm going to make this as a header. Save these changes, and I'm going to import this over where here. So yeah, make sure like this, right? So now you should not get this message. Okay, now the header has been rendered over there, right? So let's go ahead and create a new prop for this. So interface header props, open it. So of course I'm going to bring the children. So I'm going to supply the children props inside it, and that is going to be the react node. Then class name, so I need to customize all the classes which is necessary, and this is going to be an optional, so class. Okay, then I need to supply this to our react.fc and use this type as a header props. Then you can expand the children and the class name from there. All right, and inside here I'm going to get the router. So const router equals to use router from the React navigation. Okay, enter. Now inside this division, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this as a division itself. Then for this class name, I'm going to use this dynamic string literals, and I'm going to use this TW merge. And first I need to supply the custom styles, then I need to supply the class name if I need to customize in future. And over here, height, of course, it's going to be fit the content, and BG it's going to be gradient, and it should be to bottom gradient from emerald 800. Okay, and padding 4. I'm not going to give the 2 color. If you need to give any 2 color, I'm going to keep the bottom as a transparent, just like over here. So I'm not giving any color. If you need, you can change that. And I'm going to enable the word wrap. Save this. Now you should be able to see this like this. Now inside here, now what I need to do is I need to bring those button actions. So I'm going to create a div, class name, and of course width is going to be full, and margin bottom it's going to be 4, and flex item center, justify between. And inside this division, now I'm going to create one more div, class name. Okay, so div class name, and this should be hidden. So that's for the button. It should be hidden defaultly, but from the medium device onwards it should be displayed. And gap x it's going to be 2, and item center, and enter. And now I need to bring up 2 different buttons over here, right? Button 1, and this is type is going to be the button. Okay, and for this class name, if you wish to use the same, if instead of creating this, what we can do is we can create our own button component which we generated, and inside here I can bring that for chevron left. Yes, this is the one, chevron left. Save it. Now you should be able to see that button over here, something like this. So for this button, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write some style. So class name, which is going to be rounded full. Of course, it's need to be rounded completely. So rounded full. Okay. Then I just need to make sure everything is in the center, and by default transitions and everything. But the BG color is going to be black. Okay. Something like that. And for this, what I'm going to do is class name, text color is going to be white color, and the text size is going to be Excel, like this. So if you need to keep it as an Excel, keep it as an Excel, or you can keep LG. I think LG is more preferable. Now what I need to do is I need to use the router. So on click, whenever I'm clicking this, I'm going to call a callback function. Then I'm just going to say router dot back. It should go to the previous location of the router. Save it. Now I'm going to copy this button and I'm going to paste it. Instead of chevron left, I'm just going to say chevron right. For chevron right. Okay, so make sure that is being imported and bring this on the top. Yes, arrange it properly. And this should be forward. Yep. Now you should get the backward and the forward. Now if I click this, that will take me to the home page. But if I get back to the artist, you can see this forward and backward, it's working perfectly fine, right? And now all I have to do is to we have to display the children's, right? So where is this division is finishing? So this division is being finished right after here. So right after here, I need to bring up the children's, because for home page we need to display header. For here we need to display different header. So I will send the children's over here and save it. Now here you don't worry, because this is not supposed to be, because we need to supply the header children prop inside here. Now for this artist, we need to supply the different header, right? So inside here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this #2 tag, right? And this is going to be our popular artists. Save the changes. Now you should get that our popular artist over here. So for this #2 tag, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say margin y, top and bottom, it's going to be 4, and text is going to be Excel, and font, of course, it's going to be bold, and text is going to be the neutral 400. Save these changes. This is how it should look. So now we have that artist. Now we successfully finished our reusable header component. Now all I have to do is to go ahead and create the page content to display the artist details. So that's what we are going to do next. All right then, so now all we have to do is to here. So that's the place where we are going to display the content. So I'm going to create a new div for class name. Of course, it's going to be width full. Then everything is going to be flex one. So because it's need to occupy the complete available space. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a page content for this as a component. Okay, page content. Okay, and I need to supply the artist informations in here. Artist is equals to artist, right? So of course, if I say this, I'm going to get the error as the page component is not defined. Of course, we not yet defined it. So inside the artist folder, I'm going to create a new folder called page content. Okay, not folder. I'm going to sorry, my bad. I'm going to create a new folder called components. Inside that components, I'm going to create a new file called tsx, like this. Okay, because this component is only belong to the artist page, right? So here now what I'm going to do inside the page content, and then that page content, I'm going to create sfc and make sure that is the page content. And for the time being, I'm just going to create a div as the page content. Okay, and this is supposed to be a client side component. So I'm going to make sure that is a client side. Then I'm going to create a prop interface page content props, open it, and it's going to get the artist as a prop name, and it's going to use the artist type which we have and make sure it's an array and supply that to your page content. So react.fc, use the type the page content props and get your artist. Okay, so now page content, everything is fine. So save these changes, and here let's go ahead and import this page content from your components page content and save these changes. Now this issue should be resolved. Yep, now you can see we are getting the page content over here, right? So make sure the whenever you are you should fetch this detail only the server side component, not in your client side component. Okay, so please follow through properly. Otherwise, you will definitely run into an hydration error just like I did. Okay, so that's the reason I'm saying that. So here I'm just going to get the artist dot length. If the artist data is there and if its length is equals to 0, then what we have to do, I have to return a div. Okay, I'm going to return a div, and let's say this, it's going to say no artist data available, something like this. And the class name, of course, it's going to be margin from the margin top. Let's make it as 4, and the text is going to be neutral 400. So save these changes. Okay, so of course we don't have the, so what I'm going to do is over here I'm just going to send an empty array. Now you can see we have the message as no artist data is available. Let's make this width full, flex, item center, justify center, something like this. Later we need to customize this component to display some no data available. We need to create ourselves a custom component to display it more interactive, right? For the time being, I think this is enough. And here I'm just going to send the artist data, save it, and let's bring it back over here and bring this in a single screen. And now what I need to do, I know that artist data, it's been coming inside. So here I'm going to customize this. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to make this as a grid component so that you can able to display it in a more interactive way, and you can see it's completely responsive, right? So what we have to do is to over here, I'm going to create a class name and make this as a grid. Okay, grid, and grid column, it's going to be 2 for the mobile devices. Okay, and how it is looking in the mobile devices. Yeah, for mobile devices we have 2. Okay, so which means once it's crossed from the medium devices onwards, grid column, it's going to be 3. From the large devices onwards, grid column, it's going to be 4. And for Excel devices, grid column it's going to be 5, and for 2XL devices grid column it's going to be 8. Okay, margin top it's going to be 4, and px it's going to be 4, and gap of course in between each object it's going to be 4. Save which changes. Okay, now inside here I need to render the artist. So artist question mark dot map, I'm going to get the one by one item from here, and I'm going to render that item inside here. So for that, I'm going to bring the artist item. Then I need to supply the key for the artist item and all those things. Let's go ahead and create the artist item inside here. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to create a new component inside the artist folder called artist component.tsx. Okay, so what we have to do is make sure this artist component is as the client side component. So client, and inside here I'm just going to say sfc artist item, and I'm just going to create a div, and I'm going to display this as the artist item. Save this changes, and let's import that artist item over here /artist. Save this changes. Now for each artist you should get the artist item over here. Look at that, how cool is that? Now for this, what I need to do is I need to supply the data in it. So what are the things that I need to supply for this? For this key, I need to get the item ID. Then I'm going to keep the on click event for this. Of course we don't have that function yet, so don't worry. So I'm going to keep this as an empty click function. Then I need to supply the data into it. I'm going to supply the item. So this is just a type error, so don't worry about it. So let's get back to the artist item inside here. Now inside this artist item, I'm going to create the props. So interface artist item props. So what are the props that we created over here? On click and the data. So let's go ahead and create the on click and data. So data is going to be the artist type. Okay, that's a single data which we are supplying inside, and it's going to have an on click prop. On click C should be capital is equals to, and it's going to be a function, and it's going to return the void data, and this function is going to take a parameter called id, and that is going to be a string. Okay, so on click, why we are getting, oh, this is not supposed to be equal, it should be colon, my bad. So on click, and this it should have react.fc, and let's bring a functional component, and let's use the artist props, and let's extract the data and as well as the on click function. Now the error should be resolved over here and over here. Okay, save this changes. Okay, now you can see we are still displaying the artist item. So now all I have to do is to I need to display the details of the artist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure this, it's going to have an on click, right? On click, it's equals to on click. It's going to be a fallback function on click, which is coming from our props, and I'm going to supply the data.id in it. Okay, later we need to use that ID. And for this class name, okay, so what I need to do is I need to make sure that class name should display the necessary information, just like that division should display the necessary image and the detail. So for this, let me enable the word wrap so you can see it clearly. So for this class name, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure this is a relative, and I'm going to make this as a group, group group. Okay, and flex column, item center, justify center, and rounded should be medium, and overflow everything should be hidden, and gap should be 4, and bg neutral it's going to be 400/50% of it. Then cursor, of course, it's going to be pointer, and hover. Whenever I'm hovering it, it should use the bg neutral 400/5, and the transition should be properly done. So transitions, and we need to add the padding. So we need to have some padding. I think this is P4 or something. So P2 or something. Save it. Okay, now you should have this nice artist card over here. Look at that. How cool is that? It's looking cool, right? Now I need to bring the image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a div and I'm going to say class name, and it's going to be the relative, because inside here I'm going to bring the image as an absolute one, and it's going to be the aspect square, because we need to be, it should be perfect square, and width of course it could be full, height of course it's going to be full. Okay, and of course it's going to be rounded MD, and overflow everything should be hidden. And for the time being, let's keep the BG slate as 50. Okay, so currently you can see that we have a nice background slate color over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this as exactly the same. Save it. Okay, so now we can see that we're having that. And now I need to bring an image inside image, which is coming from next image. For this next image, of course, we need to supply it should fill and the alternative. So for the alternative, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use the data dot author name. That's the alternative. And for the source, what I'm going to do is we need to get that image path. So what I'm going to do is we need to write a hook to get that, to load that image path, because when you are saving it, if you go here, we are just saving that path name, but we're not accessing the real image, right? So using this path name, I need to access the real image from our storage. So in order to do that, let's get to our hooks folder and create a new hook, and let's use load artist image dot ts, something like this, right? And inside here, what I'm going to do is I need the artist type. So import artist from the types. Okay, then const use load artist image, something like this, is equals to, and I'm going to supply the parameter as the artist, and that is going to be artist colon type of this artist. Okay, inside this function we need to create the Supabase client object. Use Supabase client, make sure that is imported properly, and if not artist, we are returning the value as null. Otherwise, I'm going to fetch that data and I'm going to keep the data name as the image data, equals to, from the Supabase client, I'm going to fetch that storage dot from. So if you wish to keep this as an async, let's use this as an async, and you can make this as await. So from, okay, so anyways, it's showing us it has no effect over here. Let's see, from images, and then get public URL using this artist dot picture, send that picture in it, and return that image data dot public URL. All right, then finally you have to export this default value as use load artist image. Save these changes, and anyways it doesn't take any effect over here, so remove it the async. Okay, now it's fine. And now I have to get that. So here what I'm going to do is inside this artist item, so I need to get that image path. The const image path is equals to use load artist image. For this artist, I need to supply the data. So let me supply the data, because that's the data which carrying on the artist information. Supply the data into it, and now we have the image path, and I'm going to use that image path. If there is no image path, then it's not loaded properly. So I'm just going to say slash, from the slash image folder, I'm going to use image, not this one. Okay, I'm going to use this avatar.jpg. Okay, let's use that avatar.jpg. Save the changes. Now we should get Okay, so we ran into an error. I think yes, this host name is not yet configured in our config. So copy this host name and get back to your next config.mjs, and just like the same way, create one more and give the host name and supply the host name over here, right? So now if you refresh it, this issue should be resolved. It's loading. I think, yep, there we go. So now we are getting that image, but the image is not fitting properly. So let's go here. And for this image, what I need to do, I need to write some style. So class name, it's going to be object cover. So this should cover the entire section. Now it will be perfectly fitted inside, right? So now we have the image. Now all I have to do is to go ahead and create the a paragraph tag, and I'm going to bring that author name inside. So data.author, and let's make this as a class name, and it's going to truncate if it is a very big name, and of course it's going to use the width full and font semi bold and text as center. Save these changes. Come on, it's not displaying the author. Is there any mistakes? Refresh it. Why it's not displaying the author name? Inspect the elements. Okay. Oh, my bad. This is supposed to be outside this division. That's the mistake. Yep. Now we can see that name over here, right? And then I'm just going to say text size. It's going to be medium. Save these changes. Okay. Now the name is in the center. If it is a too big name, you can see it's automatically truncating the names and everything. So now, okay, so if I click this, so the ID will be passed to this onClick function, so I can access that function or whenever I needed it. Okay, so I can give that, instead of on clicking over here, I can use this as a handle click. Const handle click, it's equals to open it. I'm going to get the ID and it should be a string, and here I'm just going to say handle click, and inside this handle click I'm just going to say, oops, that's need an ID, right? So I'm going to get as a callback function, so I'm going to say handle click and supply the ID data.id in it, and inside here I'm just going to say console.log that ID which we are sending inside. Okay, right? So if I save these changes, now whenever you are clicking this, you can see we are getting the ID of that. So later in this place we can try to get the song details based on this artist voice using this ID details and everything, and you have to supply that to this onClick data.id. So this will supply that informations to that prop. All right, so we successfully stored the artist informations into our Supabase database and in the Supabase storage, and we successfully fetched it properly and we displayed it over here.